Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Informed Fed with my guest host and co-author of the book, Bryant Stone. We're on chapter 9. Welcome back, Bryant.
Jeff, how we doing, man? How's everything?
Good, good. We're blowing through this book.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
this is a topic that gets a lot of questions, and is always at the top of surveys that we do. And today we're going to talk about Roth TSP versus the traditional Roth. And it can be confusing. And Brian's here to maybe simplify it for you. Just as a reminder, if you hear any content or you have questions, there are links below for those of you viewing on YouTube. If you're listening in, we'll give you the information of where to go to set up a time to receive a complimentary meeting with Bryant. Also, we'll give you the links at the end here. So hang on until the end so that you'll know where to go so that we can help you. That's what we do. We're helping federal employees. So all right, Bryant, let's get into this. Before we start recording, you said you have this conversation a lot, correct?
Yeah, we get it a ton. Especially over these last couple of years, Jeff, because with the Tax Cuts and Job Act getting ready to end in 2026, it's been a huge topic of mine with a lot of people because they're like, should I contribute to the Roth? Should I not contribute to the Roth? Taxes are increasing. With the Roth TSP specifically, I mean, that's only been around for federal employees since 2012, May 7th to be exact. That's when they started receiving contributions to the Roth TSP. So a lot of the time, Jeff, when I'm speaking to federal employees, um, I'd say probably a good percentage of them don't even know that there is a Roth inside their TSP. Because, once again, since it is so new, and also too, just because a lot of employers in general, um, do not offer a Roth 401k. Now that's being more and more of a thing with the defined contribution plan, with employers offering the Roth as an option, because, it allows just from a very rudimentary standpoint, it allows that employee to pay tax on that money now, and then it allows the earnings on that money to be tax-free in the future. That's like the big thing about, contributing to a Roth, right? At some point, that money is all going to be tax-free. And a reason why someone would contribute to a Roth, I guess the biggest reason is if they feel like their taxes are going to be a lot higher in the future than what they are today. Now, what I tell a lot of my clients, Jeff, is it all depends, right? Because, you may be in a situation where your taxes may be a lot lower in the future, depending upon what your income looks like and, your situation. Now, what I've been seeing personally in my practice, because like I said, I'd say 80% to 85% of our clientele is federal employees. And what I see typically is that when we look at everything, in its totality, is that more times than not, I'd say over the last 5 years, federal employees' taxes are most likely going to be higher in the future. So contributing to that Roth is something that's been, more topic of mind, something that we're thinking about implementing. But also, Jeff, too, you can't discount, um, the traditional TSP as well, right? Because if you get someone who has let's say they're teetering a tax bracket, right? Let's say they're teetering the 22 or 24% tax bracket. And if they make a $5,000 contribution to that traditional TSP, that brings them down to that 22% tax bracket. That may make some sense, right?
Right.
Uh, Something else to kind of mention or bring up is like, if you get someone, let's say they're currently living in a state where they pay state income tax, right? And they know that they may retire in the future to a state where they may not pay state income tax. And let's say, you know, average state income tax is like 5%, right? Just kind of depends upon what state you're in, but I'd say average across the US about 5%. So if they know they're going to retire into a state where they're not going to pay any state income tax, you know, maybe contributing to a traditional TSP may make some sense because they're deferring the tax on that. And then when they retire, they're not going to pay any state income tax on it. Whereas if they were to contribute to the Roth, they're paying tax on that money now. So they're paying their federal and their state. So those are kind of things that, myself and our team as advisors try to have the foresight on, because that's not something always that you're going to think about, right, Jeff? When you're thinking about your finances, just small nuances like that can mean a lot, because if you could save yourself 5% in taxes on a big lump sum, that can make a huge difference, right? So there's a lot of different things to consider, not consider when you're talking about contributing to the Roth TSP, contributing to just a regular traditional Roth. A big question, or I would say, a big aha moment for a lot of federal employees and people that we speak to is that a lot of them feel like inside the TSP, there's income limits as far as how much you can contribute to the TSP, whether it's traditional or Roth. Because on the outside, if you're just setting up a regular IRA, whether it's traditional or Roth, you're going to have income limits, and you're also going to have contribution limits. And as of 2024, if you want to contribute to a traditional Roth or a traditional IRA, that current limit right now, Jeff, is 7,000. And then if you're above the age of 50, that goes to 8,000 because they allow you to do what's called catch up. But if you're inside, and there's also income limits too, right? That you can, there's certain income limits if you're allowed to contribute to a Roth. And then same thing for the traditional IRA. There's income limits where that contribution can be tax deductible. So those are things that you got to think about. But if you're contributing, Jeff, inside your TSP, there are no income limits. Now there are contribution limits. Those contribution limits are a lot higher. It's 23,500, I believe, for 2024 inside the TSP. And then if you're going to do a catch up, it's an additional, I believe, 6,500. So it's like a total of about 30,000 that you can contribute inside that TSP. So that's something that you may want to know, right? Because Jeff, I've spoken, and as you know, I work with a ton of federal employees and have been over the years, is that some of them are only contributing to the contribution limit of what it is on just setting up a normal IRA, not knowing that they can contribute that much more. And they're like, man, I've been doing this for 4 years. I didn't know I can contribute more than the 7,000 that's allowed, or if you're over 50, that 8,000 that's allowed with a regular IRA. So there's a lot of things that go into the Roth TSP, the traditional Roth. I mean, with the traditional Roth, something as simple as if you're under the age of 59 and a half, you're able to take that principal if you need it, let's say for whatever reason, without being subject to that 10% tax penalty. Not the case inside the Roth TSP. You can't take the principal that's inside there because that money is in what's called or considered a retirement account inside with your employer. So that money is tied up. So yeah, there's a lot of different nuances. A lot of times, Jeff, when I'm sitting down with my clients and we're kind of evaluating what makes the most sense, I always tell my clients, listen, based on your situation, you should contribute to the traditional TSP this year or the Roth TSP this year. But that's something that we have to evaluate on a yearly basis because your income will change. The tax laws will change. As we know, like I said at the beginning, the Tax Cuts and Job Act is getting ready to end in 2026. So with those tax rates going up, right, it's like, okay, now if you're going from a 22 to 25% bracket, what's the best way for you to contribute, right? Because a lot of times, Jeff, people are kind of looking for that cookie cutter answer. just give me the answer 2 seconds. What do they call it? The microwave generation, right? And then they
Yeah.
want to say, okay, I just do this until I retire and I'm good, right? I'll be a millionaire, all my problems will be solved. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way, right?
No.
It's something that we have to continually optimize and monitor as we go along, with your retirement and kind of be your partner in this because, as legislation changes, as the political landscape changes, these are things that it requires is the word I'm looking for, requires continual optimization. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. I can talk on this topic till I'm blue in the face, but does any of that make
Yeah.
sense, Jeff?
Yeah. I think, a thought that crossed my mind for those listening in or viewing. That's why they need an advisor to sit down and work through this on a regular basis. Because, you know, uh, a little misunderstanding or not having, information is knowledge and knowledge is power. So if you're not informed, then you miss out on something that could be a huge financial have huge financial implications down the road just because you didn't know. And that's something we try to promote as we push out these podcasts and information is to try to educate people on these types of differences in programs. Because as you mentioned, somebody could have a Roth TSP and think, I don't, the traditional, I already got the Roth TSP, but it's different. There's there's um, there's differences that need to be discussed, and that's why they should book a meeting with you, right?
For sure, because and I can keep going on and on, but like something that I come across a lot with is like, some folks do not contribute. They want to contribute to the Roth, but they don't contribute to the Roth because they think they're not going to get their government match,
There you go,
which,
right there. Yeah, I've heard that also. Yep.
which is not the case. They just changed the guidelines this year where prior, if you had the money in the Roth TSP, it would be subject to required minimum distributions. They recently changed that rule this year, so now it's uh, not subject to required minimum distributions. They have another rule coming up in 2026 that I'm gonna kind of just leave that as a nugget for when you speak to me. But
Yeah.
there's all types of stuff, man, that you need to be in the know, and you can either find yourself educating yourself and taking advantage of the rules because it's like I think I might have said this in a previous episode, Jeff. If you're playing a game, right, and you don't know the rules, how are you going to be effective at the game, right? And too many times, Jeff, people play this game of their finances in this game called life without knowing the rules,
Right.
and they find themselves in having huge tax liens and tax burdens and losing money and losing money in the market and getting themselves in ridiculous amounts of credit card debt just because they don't know the rules. So
Right.
with these podcasts, we try to push out content to obviously educate. We're here to educate and help you, and obviously get you hip to game when it comes to a lot of this stuff.
No, absolutely. I think usually find out the mistakes you made and not understanding the rules when you get to retirement. We're dealing with it with my wife's parents right now. They didn't uneducated in some of the decisions they should have made, and then it's a burden for everybody else sometimes. So absolutely, I agree 100%. So, and speaking of that, Chapter 10 is the TSP Modernization Act of 2017. So speaking of rules, right there. So you're going to want to join us when that next episode drops because there's additional uh, information that you're going to want to be aware of. So, very good session today. So, bottom line, you need to get with Bryant, and a couple ways you can do that. His link is embedded, so you can book a complimentary consultation. Just click the link below. If you're listening in, go to myfeduniversity.com, and go ahead and start your retirement roadmap. There's a link right there. You can put it in the comments that you listen to the podcast or you saw us on YouTube. That'll help us, and we'll direct you over to Brian so that he can get with you and maybe help clarify some of this retirement planning for you. So, all right. Any closing comments, Brian?
No, just continually educate yourself. Make sure you listen to the podcast, like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you
There you
guys on
go.
the next
All right. Look for chapter 10 to drop. And until next time, thank you.
one. Thank you, guys. Investment advisory services offered through Red Hawk Wealth Advisors Incorporated, an SEC registered investment advisor. Top Rank Advisors LLC and Red Hawk Wealth Advisors Incorporated are not affiliated.